Welcome back to part 2 of my return to podcasting. This is the episode with the whips where we chat about what I am currently working on. So if you're curious about that and you're bored and nothing else to do, just kidding, that's rude. Don't be mean to myself. If you want to spend some time together, then go grab your project and meet me back here. Some uncharacteristically languishing whips. Now, I'm usually just a 1 or 2 whip kind of gal, and recently though I've had like a bunch of cast-ons. I've been doing a ton of swatching and just trying to decide what I want to work on. So I have several whips to share with you. By the way, if you missed the last episode, that is the one with all the finished objects where I also talk about what I'm wearing. So maybe hop back over there and watch that episode first and then come back and join us. This is part 2. This is the sequel. So let's see. We'll start with whatever is in this bag. Oh, okay, this is really sad. When you guys see how far I am in this shawl and what I have left to do, you are gonna want to slap me upside the head. Okay. This is the Ghost Flower Shawl by Amy Christoffers. Christoffers, I don't know how to say it. And you guys, I only have to bind it off. That's literally all I have to do. So you might be wondering, but Haley, why haven't you bound it off? Why? Because my skein ran out. This is what I have left. I kind of decided to squeeze in 1 extra set of the lace pattern, and then was left with not enough for the bind off. But it's actually not accurate that I don't have enough for the bind off, because there's a whole other skein sitting right there waiting to be wound up, and I am just too lazy to do it. So I need to kind of give myself a swift kick in the ass and get it done. Anyway, the shawl is knit in Purl Soho good wool, and this was, golly, I mean, you just think we're inseparable. This was yarn that Mia brought to me when she came down to visit for the Nash Yarn Fest, very sweetly. And I have joked that this is like my guacamole shawl, because when you look at this yarn up close, it does absolutely look like guacamole. Don't you think so? Which is funny because in my last episode, I showed you that blue and like neon yellow sweater, which I call my margarita sweater. So I've got my guacamole shawl and my margarita sweater, and yeah, I'm just ready for a Mexican restaurant apparently. Gonna need my salsa cardigan next, I guess. This shawl was really fun, kind of a spontaneous cast on, very simple garter stitch with a very basic eyelet lace pattern. It was one that I knit while we were driving to Michigan, so it spent a lot of travel time, and this is actually only 1 skein of the Purl Soho, so easy to do in a single skein of a sport weight, or you could probably do it in a like woolen spun fingering weight as well, would be really nice. I probably would not do it in like a thin fingering weight, or if you did it, you definitely would want to kind of have it be a little bit on the larger side, because your shawl would end up being a little small. But in any case, I do think that I reversed my right and my wrong side somewhere along the way. And I am hopeful it is just not going to be noticeable. Obviously, this is not on the full wingspan of the shawl, because I have it on my little, what do we call these? Try-on cords, pearl strings, I don't know, whatever we call them. But I've not been, like traditionally much of a lace knitter in the past, but I think working on my dusk light shawl kind of showed me that lace can actually be fun, and I think this would necessarily be considered lace as well, but just a very basic lace pattern. So I think maybe a like lace in its simplest form. Just maybe not the overly complicated lace. Does that make sense? In any case, I really should just wind up, or I don't even have to wind the whole thing of yarn. I just need to take like a few yards off of it and finish my bind off so that this is done. Okay, so next episode, you guys hold me to this. The next time I film, this will be finished. We won't really probably talk about it, but I'm probably just gonna say, accountability partners, I did it. I finished my Ghost Flowers shawl. So if you're wanting just like something kind of mindless, pretty simple, lots of garter, then you might enjoy this pattern. Oh, and check this out. Can you tell between what my mood was in May? You guys, I purchased all 3 of these things on our Michigan trip. This yarn, this bag, and this yarn. So like I said, Moonspun Wool is the shop in Marquette, and she has such a lovely shop, and she has some handmade project bags. So this is the one that I purchased. Again, I don't think that she has these on her website, but maybe if you contacted her on Instagram and you were interested in one, maybe, I don't know. I'm not connected with her really in order to be able to make any promises that she can't keep. But anyway, so that's where I came across this bag, and I do love it. It is lined. It's a great little bag, and goes nicely with my color theme. Okay, what else? While we are on shawls, I have another shawl on the needles, which did have some extensive frogging yesterday because I worked the entire section wrong. And I am awfully tangled. Oh my goodness. Okay, hang on. Let's get ourselves untangled. Well, this is also from Moonspun Wool. We're just gonna call this the Moonspun Wool double feature episode, where you get to tour all of their goods. This is not a paid promotion. This is just, oh, me knitting through my stash. Okay. Are we untangled? No, we are still working. You guys, I am helplessly tangled here. Okay, now we are good to go. So this next pattern, it was given to me as a kit for my birthday or Christmas, one or the other, by my mother-in-law. And this is the dropped the yarn on the floor. This is the Birds of a Feather shawl, also by Andrea Mowry. Yarn is also from Moonspun Wool. This is some of her house hand-dyed merino and linen singles, and also mohair. Okay, so this is a very popular shawl pattern. I think it's one of Andrea's older shawls. Oh wow, I've not seen it like on camera. I've only looked at it up close, so this is like my first time seeing all those speckles. Okay, so let's do real talk. I found this very fiddly to start. First of all, the pattern uses the abbreviation RM, which for me means remove marker. And as I mentioned in the last episode, I don't always read straight through all of the knitting patterns like I should. Sometimes I just dive in. So I got very confused at the beginning because I was like, how do I just remove the marker, and then what do I do with the marker? Then I went back and read and realized that RM in this pattern means replace marker. Now, it does not ever say to remove it, so it's an assumed knowledge that you need to remove it, and the reason for that is it's a center marker and it gets stuck in the kind of knit two together, pass one, stitch over situation that's going on. So when you're first starting the shawl and you have to do that removal and replacement of the marker, every other row after like 2 or 3 stitches, it's very fiddly. So I did not really enjoy this shawl at all. Let's say from like here to here. Did not enjoy it. But well, I couldn't decide what else to knit. I decided to pick it back up again and kept on rolling with it. And it has since become kind of like my travel, go anywhere project. So I really only work on it when I'm on the go, because it is, for the most part, a relatively simple garter stitch situation. However, I did also learn that when it comes to lace, I really prefer a chart. I don't like handwritten instructions for lace. It's funny because I was so intimidated by charts when I first started knitting, and now they just seem like just so much easier for my brain to conceptualize. So I definitely have had to rip out a row on pretty much each lace section that I've done so far, just based on the fact that for some reason I cannot get the lace section to line up properly. Don't know what's happening in my brain with that. It just does not compute with the lace section. But nevertheless, I am persisting. And recently, yesterday, I went to go have a little monthly knitting session over at Cameo Fiber Co., which is a lovely yarn dyer in my neighborhood. And we've been doing like a monthly kind of like knitting get together the last Saturday of every month. And before I went yesterday, I sat down to work on this and realized that my stitch counts were all wrong. So I had to frog back the mohair section that I was working on because I misread the pattern and missed the piece that I was meant to drop the yarn over in the wrong side row. So I have now started again on that section and am carrying on. Now, I'm not sure, what do we think about the color of the yarn for me? I feel like a little bit that it may wash me out. Worn next to my neck. What do you think? I'm not sure. But it has been just kind of a fun little project to pick up in easy moments since it is just mostly garter stitch. But I do think that's probably also why I've made so many mistakes, because I have been knitting this since March, just off and on here and there. And I find that when I put stuff down and go back to it, I'm much more likely to make mistakes or forget where I am or not capture the rhythm of the pattern as well. So that's, I think, probably one reason why I tend to be more of a somewhat monogamous knitter, because then I can get in the rhythm and I don't forget where I am and what I'm doing. This next one is halfway done. This is one that I just really wanted to try out this technique. To be honest, I'm not 100% on this, which I think is why I haven't finished it yet. This is the Navala Scarf. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, from Tete Lutsak. And this is a technique that I've been wanting to try for a while. I think that the designer uses the term inlay color work, but I've also heard it called recipient. I think it's the same thing. You can feel free to correct me down below if it's not, because I'm not that familiar. But essentially, rather than using your knit stitch to create the color work pattern, you are using your floats. So you pass the yarn on the front side to create a float. And instead of the knit. Now, this is half the scarf, so the remaining section is to be, oh, I should say there's a shawl and a scarf. This is the scarf version, so this is the small one. I think it's originally designed in Knitweekend. I am knitting it also in Shetland from Leatherwood Creek Farm. This is the 2025 shearing of the lamb's wool, and I've got a big smile on my face because these are the sheep that I was actually able to go and like help skirt the fleeces. So this is a true, like, I have been with this yarn from sheep to projects. So very excited to be knitting with this yarn. But in the 2 natural colors, there are 2, they were blended. So Julie did like a light creamy silver, and then also like a lovely gray pewter. In the lamb's wool. So I think she probably has this, if she still has any available, which I know she didn't have a whole lot of this, which is why I grabbed it, then it'll be on her Etsy or her website. By the way, that's a local farm to me, just a little bit south of Nashville. So the other side of the scarf, this is going to be the main color, and then the inlay color work is in the lighter color. What I am not sold on, one is the length. So if this is half of it, we're gonna get one wrap, but I don't think we're gonna get two. Unless maybe in the blocking, the garter just really, really opens up. I think it's a bit short. Admittedly, did not gauge swatch, so could totally be my fault. I think that's one hesitation. The other one that I have is, I'm wondering if this yarn is right for the Russamine or inlay color work. In the original pattern, she suggests to use like something like Knitweekend that is kind of like a like airier, not tightly spun wool. And this is not tightly spun. This is a 2-ply, pretty loosely spun actually. But it is definitely spun nonetheless. So I'm not really sure if this was the right decision for this. Haven't decided yet if I'm going to carry on. What I should do is I should just block this side. That would be a great plan of action. I can block this side and then see where I go from there. But all in all, this was a super fun, this part, very Sophie Shawl. This part, very fun. And I'm excited to try this technique again. There are several designers who work with this. Florence Sperling is one, obviously Teti Lutsak. Alex Bird is the one who really has brought this technique, I think, to modern knitting, if I had to pick one person who's done that. So in any case, that is still a whip. Maybe I will block it and we'll see where we go from there. Let's see. Okay, and then we have one final whip, and again, I have been knitting from stash with the goal to really not buy anything until possibly August, because I'll be going on a trip in August, so possibly then, but hopefully I'm really trying to get through October to Rhinebeck and just create some room in my yarn closet and get through the stash. So I have kind of gone into some deep stash here, combined with some newer stash that I didn't really know what to do with. So one of these yarns, I have already shown you a project in that I actually reclaimed. I had a vest, it was wishful knitting, my gauge was off, I tried to make it work, it was just getting worse and worse, and it wasn't turning out well. So this is my Hillesvag Tinde. And I did reclaim this, I did soak it and reset the yarn. And then I'm combining that, and this is going to be like so surprising. This is not, I don't know why I thought this was going to work, but I kind of think it does. I combined it with some lovely teal Suri that I purchased from the Artful U in Port Gamble, Washington. So let's talk about Suri. There are so many people who are such huge Suri fans. This is my first time working with Suri. I am finding it, sorry, I've got a tank top on under this and it just keeps on kind of slipping down. I am finding it, or I have found it to be not have very much structure. And generally speaking, I'm somebody who, as you can tell, likes a lot of structure in their yarn. So this, as compared to mohair, I did try to hold this double with itself, and I just found that it just it just flopped. It just didn't work for me. And I was watching a podcast episode from Beth McDonald-Stone, and she kind of alluded to this and said, you know, Suri held on itself really isn't going to have much structure, so I prefer to hold it with some sort of workhorse yarn. She specifically mentioned like the Holst super soft. And I did order a skein of Holst, just not a cone, just a skein for a color match to see if I liked it together, and I did. But I just still couldn't come up with the right project for that. And then all of a sudden, I was scrolling Instagram and I saw a marl that kind of reminded me of this. So I decided to try these two together. So I am knitting in like hardcore wool yarn in the middle of summer. It is what it is. And I cast on the fancy sweater. So this is another one at a pretty big gauge. I think this is another 17 stitch gauge sweater. Modifications that I've made so far. I cast on fewer stitches for the neckline. I think I did 4 fewer stitches on the neckline, and then I did increase them into the sweater on the first round. And that's because if you notice in the pattern photos, the neckline is like very, very wide, very drapey, and I really didn't want that. I want something that's gonna have a cute kind of vintage looking mock neck. And the collar does stand up. I think that's across the board. Now it was originally designed in birdie, I think, or big birdie. So mine is gonna have a little bit of a different feel because I am using a wool yarn for my base, not just the Suri. But overall, I think it's really great. It's funny because it looks, does it look purpley to you from here? Up close. What I'm kind of going for is that like oil slick vibe to it. I do plan to do this as another one that has, you know, like a cropped sleeve. The original pattern I think has full length sleeves and actually kind of a long sleeve with a cuff that goes over the hand, but I'm kind of envisioning this more of, like I said, a vintagey look. So probably elbow length is where I'm headed on the sleeves. And then probably a cropped body as well. I do love the rib on this one. It's unusual because it's a 3x1. And on my folded collar, I just knit 2 together. I think the pattern actually calls for a provisional cast on. By the way, this is a free pattern, so you can go grab it. The fancy sweater is designed by the Layman Kid. I should have said that. Again, I'm just getting back on the horse here. But it called for a provisional cast on, which then you would knit together. Now, again, I wanted to be sure that I wasn't having this like stretching, gaping neck. So I did go ahead and do a spaced long tail cast on, and then I knitted the 2 together. And that between casting on 4 fewer stitches and also the spaced long tail cast on, I'm hopeful that that's going to keep the neck shape to be a bit closer in. I think it will. I mean, it'll stretch a little bit as I add the sleeves, the weight of the sleeves, and give it a block, but I think it will be, you know, that kind of closer mock neck vibe that I'm going for. So this is on pause at the moment. Ooh. Okay, I'm not going to show you that other whip. I have one other whip that I'm working on. I'm just kind of plugging away at it. We'll talk about that in the future though. But this is on hold at the moment because my next step is I want to pick up the sleeves, but my little 5mm shorties are on the other project at the moment. So I need to finish up my sleeve on that project so that I can hop over to this one and finish it. So we shall see. Again, just kind of like having fun and playing in my stash to see what I come up with, which is probably why I have so many whips. Because I'm just playing right now. That just seems fun. All right, we have made it to the end of the whip episode. Little bit of a shorter episode, but that's okay because this is really just a sequel to the last one. But before I go, I do want to leave an Easter egg question. So as a reminder, leave a comment with an egg emoji so that I know that you are playing along. And this one is a total gimme. What are you working on right now? Tell me, what are you working on? I can use inspiration. You know what I'm working on. What are you working on? Anyway, all right. Thank you for hanging out with me. I hope you will come back again, and I'll talk to you soon.